Good morning, people, beautiful people, that is. Welcome to Kiko's Freethinkers Forum. I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Tracy Carson. She is the host of a newly launched show called The Tracy Show, and she's the founder of Tracy Media LLC, which is a social media production company. And I want to talk to her about her social media presence. She is a strong community activist from Indianapolis, Indiana. And she is a strong advocate of social issues that I care about as well, such as Medicare for All, different education reform initiatives, social justice. I've followed her for some months now, and so I kind of understand where she lies politically, but I still want to get to know her more and her community as well. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And hello to everyone who is watching this.
I appreciate it. Again, accepting my invitation. So, how long have you had a presence on the internet? When did you start your company, Tracy Media LLC? And kind of after that, tell us a little bit about your backstory, like what got you into politics and social media?
Okay, so I'm going to split that into two. So I officially started Tracy Media. Oh, this is September, so it's been 2 years. So in 2020, I started Tracy Media, and the original concept was I started a show called Tracy at the Movies, where I would review movies.
Mhm.
And then I quickly realized movie reviews are not it wasn't for me. Everything that's out there is not for me. And I quickly realized, I'm like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. So I kind of accidentally leaped into doing political commentary. So I started doing Tracy Takes On, which came on Mondays. And I would just talk to the camera by myself. And then I realized, oh no, Tracy, this ain't gonna work with you by yourself. So I got a panel of people, and we did that for about a year. Then I added on the Progressive Queens. Then I added on Thursdays with Tracy. So I kind of added.
That's awesome.
But now I'm subtracting. In terms of political activism, I've been in political activism since I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was walking out of the classroom to protest that they weren't going to let parents in our graduation, whether it was showing up to a protest when George, and you can tell I'm old because I showed up at a protest when George W. Bush got elected the first time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm an old schooler, old schooler.
I got some old school tendencies too. No, we got a lot in common though. I remember the W days. Oh gosh.
Yeah. I've been involved in so many rallies, marches, protests, letter writing campaigns. I could talk about it for hours. I won't. But yeah, political activism is really where I tend to find my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And so starting the new show that you're talking about that just premiered last Tuesday, The Tracy Show, I started that because I was really frustrated. I was frustrated because when you tell people, oh, I'm not going to vote Democrat. I'm not going to vote Republican. I'm going to vote for this third party. We know that you hear all kinds of, you're wasting your vote. Mm-hmm. You're taking away a vote from the joke party. That's what
of course.
I call them the joke party because they're pretty much, I mean, people say, oh, they're not the same. Well, to me, they're the same. Mm-hmm. You're wasting your vote. And I was like, well, wait a minute. How am I wasting my vote? I really, really, and I'm going to just be open and honest here. When the presidential election came, I wasn't voting for Trump. There was on no planet was I going to vote for Trump. On no planet was I going to vote for Biden. But I'm still going to vote. So I'm like, well, who best aligns with my values? Now, of course, I'm a Bernie sis. I'm a strong Bernie sis. But when they did him dirty, because they did him very dirty, and he dropped out of the race, I was like, well, okay, So after researching and researching, Howie Hawkins is who I threw my support through to, and that's who I voted for.
Interesting. I have a lot to ask based on what you said. A lot of interesting things you mentioned. You mentioned frustration in the political system, the duopoly. I call it the Dempublican or Republicrat with Spike Cohen.
Oh, Republicans. Yeah.
Republic Dems. There's so many different names, but they're basically the same party. You mentioned that you were a Bernie supporter. I was at one point. I kind of jumped off the Bernie train a long time ago, but if I was to support anyone in that party, it would be Bernie. I guess my question for people who are still loyal to Bernie or like him, I like him as a person, but I don't care much for his antics as far as what he's doing now. I guess my question is getting at, do you think that Bernie is genuine now, considering that he's been rigged against twice? And also, he still decides to campaign with the Democrats, even though he identifies as an independent in the Senate. So is that deceptive, considering that he's an independent in the Senate, but when it becomes time for presidential elections, he decides to run as a Democrat, even though he's an independent?
I'll tell you why I think he did that. And of course, I don't personally know Bernie. So I'm in some people's mind to win office, which I think that was his original goal, was to win the presidency. It would be hard for an independent to win. So he, in his mind, thought, okay, it's better to run as a Democrat. Now, keep in mind, they let him run as a Democrat. He had to go through the process and say, hey, I want to run as a Democrat. He's more of a Democrat socialist, I think. But, you know, he said when he supported, if he lost, he would support whoever got the nomination. And that's what he did both times. To me, that says that he's a person of his word. And that I really appreciate, because I don't think Joe Biden is a person of his word. I literally don't. When he made that promise is, if I don't win, I'm still going to support, and then he turns around and supports, that to me speaks volumes. I don't think he's disingenuous and misleading the public. I think he made the best political calculation based off of what the current electoral process is.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I won't get too much in the back and forth with you about that, because I hang with a lot of Bernie people. I'd say that easily 40% of my associates on Facebook and social media in general are part of that Bernie camp. I've kind of branched out into different spectrums now, but I do identify as someone on the left, but I would identify more as a left libertarian. I'm definitely more left of Bernie, but I respect a lot of those positions that he preached and praised, you know, during his campaign runs. And so obviously, if that was ever fruition, I would probably support that. But I'm bringing some people on that are very close to the Bernie campaign, and they have very different views about it based on his independent status. And one such person is John Stasevich, who is actually running for president of the United States in 2024. And he worked very closely with the Green Party people. He knows the Bernie people really well. And we talked about this off a phone conversation. And he basically said there's not really a genuine approach, considering how popular Bernie is, that he couldn't run as an independent. We think of Ross Perot in the 90s and how he got 20% of the vote, national vote, as an independent back in the 90s. And we think of the Rob Naders of the world and different people over the years. I do think someone like a Bernie would be able to push the needle enough to break up the duopoly conversation. But again, that's kind of one of those things where I think me and you would maybe differ when it comes to.
Yeah, because you're probably leaning more towards him running as an independent, I'm assuming.
I think Bernie is keeping the system intact by not running as an independent. And he's deceiving his followers by saying that he is being loyal to the Democratic Party, which is proved that the Democrats are not going to change at all, because the money doesn't allow them to change.
Yeah, I see where you're going, I see exactly where you're going to. The only thing that I'll disagree about, because he still has that independent. Technically, he is an independent. Technically, I agree with, he could do more. He could say, he could be the Joe Manchin of the left and say, if this bill doesn't contain this, this, and this, and this, I'm not voting for it. He could definitely do that, and I definitely agree. But here's where I kind of disagree. So you mentioned Ross Perot. He got 20% of the vote. How many electoral votes did he win? 0. So I think in terms of Bernie not running as an independent, I think, again, he made the calculation that independents don't win. I mean, we haven't had an independent president since, George Washington? We literally have not had an independent win. And that's a whole series of circumstances that come together, in which I'm going to be talking about in the Duopoly forum that I'm having September the 24th. Is I really think that the third parties need to coalesce more, like come together more behind one candidate for president, because I'm talking about federal office, not locally. Come together behind one candidate, like, okay, we're going to take our money, our resources, and we're going to support this candidate.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. All I'm saying is that if he's an independent in the Senate, why don't he just run as an independent as the president, considering his support that he has?
Right.
I think the reason is because he doesn't want to break up the duopoly, because that would be a threat to the two-party system if he did that. It would split the country up.
Yeah, because he could be one of those people that says you work within the system, which that's a valid point. But I just don't. I think, like I said, I think he made the calculation not to run as an independent because he didn't want to seem as a person that was trying to break up the system. And that goes back to your point. I hadn't really thought about it in that way, because he's been a senator, for 20 years or something like that.
Longer than,
so he was in the system. So he's making the calculation, it's better to work within the system as opposed to you and maybe me sometimes, where we're like, no, let's work outside it because the system doesn't work. So that's I'm still going to support Bernie.
Yeah. No, I get people who support it. I think, like I said, I messed with him. I was hurt when he got deceived, and they did that against him. And so that's why I'm just like, when you see that they're showing the cards at you, why do you still go along with that? And he's been in politics long enough to know that when the political games go against you, that they're not going to change their ways, and you have to do something about that. But again, I'm not in that sphere, and so it's hard for me to say it as an outsider. But I just think that with that sort of a thought process, that it's always going to be a perpetual two-party back and forth if no one decides to break away from the label.
Yeah, somebody's got to break away. Someone, I agree with you on. Somebody that was in the two-party system has to break away.
That's and this is an important conversation because it shows that we can have the same goals, but it's just a matter of getting to that other side. And I think the country as a whole is very much in a state of apathy, in a state of despair. And the voting bloc, the majority of voters are independent voters, contrary to what the corporate media tells you, that everyone is Democrat and Republican. Most people are independent voters. The problem is that we get swayed one way or the other. When it gets to crunch time, we get swayed one way or the other, and then we have to force ourselves into the lesser of two evils argument every single year, every single election cycle, it seems. And Constance, someone that you're actually going to interview pretty soon, we talked a lot about that, and why she decided to run as an independent as opposed to a Democrat, even though she knows a lot of people within the Democratic Party in Tennessee. But there's just an ideological divide even within, when it comes to strategy and stuff as well.
Yeah, and and that's one of the main reasons I started the Tracy show, because again, I was frustrated. I'm like, how do you tell Americans, well, vote for the lesser of two evils? If you vote for one evil, now correct me, Kiko, if I'm wrong. If you vote for one evil, don't you still have evil left? I'm like, wait a minute, come on. Now, I'm not the smartest of people. I literally am not. But I'm like, what? You're saying, okay, here's what I hear on my show all the time. Well, if you vote for Republicans, they're not going to give you anything. Okay, but I'm voting for Democrats and they're not giving me anything. So why not vote for the third option? Why not explore it? And if you think about it, third party candidates are always the ones with the best ideas about how to rectify what's going on in terms of society. If you really think about ideas, even like Social Security, that was not FDR's idea. He didn't sit there and think about that. That came from the outside and he adopted it. Every major policy we've had that has benefited Americans did not come from the two-party system. And so people really need to think about that. And another reason I started the show is, and I'm definitely going to talk about this in the forum, is you said Americans are independent. We will have, and I'm talking about America as a whole, we will say, I'm for Medicare for all. I'm for elimination of student loan debt. I'm for the Green New Deal. I'm for, prisons not being ran by corporations. We'll say that. November, that first Tuesday in November, we'll vote the exact opposite way. We need to teach people to stop voting against their own, and I said teach, because that's what it is. We need to teach people how to vote for their best interest instead of just settling for two pieces of, I don't cuss, but two pieces of bleach.
You can do whatever you want in this show.
I don't. I normally don't. Yeah, because on my platform, I'm like, no, we can't cuss. But I wanted to, but I can't. But what we have is garbage in terms of the duopoly. Why not explore a third option?
There's nothing to lose.
You literally have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work, you're like, okay, we tried that, it didn't work, let's do something else.
But the power brokers have something to lose because
they have tons to lose. Influence, money, power, structure. They have definitely something to lose.
They have everything to lose.
And that's why they make it so, because I don't know if Tennessee's a signature state like Indiana is. They'll make that signature criteria so high and make it cost so much money that a third party candidate with $20 in the campaign can't do anything. And so those are the kind of the reasons I started the show, and I'm doing the forum, because I think if we can teach people and educate people, I think now is the best time to do it.
You made a comment about the signatures. How hard is it for third-party candidates to get on the ballot? Is that something that that you could share with the audience as far as that's concerned?
Every third-party candidate I have talked to has had difficulty gathering signatures. Whether it's getting enough volunteers to gather the signatures, that's the first difficulty, because unless you're a political junkie like I am, who wants to volunteer for a political campaign? Who's sitting there thinking, gee, I'm going to give up my Saturday of football to go gather signatures? Nobody's sitting there thinking that. I mean, I would. I'm pretty sure you would. But we're political junkies, so we're like, yeah, it's important to get that message out there. But the average person is either busy watching football, getting their car washed, getting their hair done, getting their hair cut, running like 18,000 errands. So that's the first problem. You can't find volunteers. If you happen to luck up and find volunteers and you get the signatures, you almost had to get 3 times more than what is required, because the county chairs or the county people that oversee that are going to throw away about 60% of what you get. So you have to get more even to get on the ballot. And
just to cover your bases.
And in Indiana, we have 92 counties. Who's gonna drive to all of those counties and get signatures? I mean, you'd have the big counties, but there's gas, there's you got to eat, you got to have something to drink, you got to have all of these things in place, and that takes money. And that's the other problem that third party candidates have is, I'm going to say I'm not running for office. I'm telling you now, I'm not running for office, but I'm going to say we a lot. We can't raise money because the Republicans get it all.
And they also set the rules to begin with.
And they set the rules. They purposely make it difficult. And then you have to go as a write-in candidate. And then if you go as a write-in candidate, one, you have to have a name that everybody can spell. You can't have some name that's hard to pronounce. I hate to say that. But you gotta be Larry Jones or John Smith or something so common that people can't possibly get it wrong, because they're just throwing so many of those write-in ballots out. If you get what I'm trying to go to. Yes, Byron Brown in Buffalo, he won his write-in candidacy, but that was because the Republicans put enough money in his campaign for him to oust, I know what her name is, India Walton.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of problems, but I think one of the reasons I did this show and I'm doing the forum is we need to seriously address how we can overcome those problems.
Yes. Something else you hit on too, that's another reason why I said what I said earlier about the disingenuous nature I feel of Bernie himself, because he is a politician, and I think his followers suffer because of that, is because we've seen time and time again, it happens all the time in the Democratic primaries, in the local races and the federal races and state level, that the establishment Democrats actively pour money into the establishment candidate to get out the quote unquote progressive candidate every time. They do it all the time. That's just like the anti-abortion candidate in Texas lost because Pelosi and all them funneled money to the anti-abortion candidate against the progressive candidate in Texas.
Yeah, Henry
and that's
Cuellar.
Just one example. This is Cuellar. That's just one example, but they do this all the time. And so I'm saying to myself, do you see what they're doing? So what makes people think that they're going to do anything differently? If they're within their own party, they're supposed to be running as Democrats against each other, but you're supporting one type of Democrat against another one. So why wouldn't progressives think about, doing some other strategy? I guess that's kind of where, that this kind of ties into it, the money and how they support the people, what they did to Nina Turner against Chantel Brown.
Please don't start me on that. Please don't start. I will take this whole show over. Don't start me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because Nina did so dirty. I can't say wrong. I'm using dirty because I'm talking like I'm on the street, but that's okay. I'm assuming I can get to do that. They did her so dirty. I'm like, and I think she finally realized, you know what, this two-party thing isn't working. I think that's what it took for her to realize that, and I'm glad she's leaning towards that. I'm hoping. I know she doesn't watch. I hope she watched this show. Nina, please run for president. If you run, I'm with you. That's all I'm gonna say.
If you run, Nina, don't run as a D.
No, I'm saying run as an independent.
Good. There you go. Hey, I'm all about that. I'm all about that.
I think she realizes that the Democrats don't have her back. And so I'm like, if she runs I'm not gonna say, because if she ran as a Democrat, I probably would still support her. But if she runs as an independent, I'm with her. Right. I'll be her Indiana campaign manager. We can get this thing rolling.
No, I get it. I think it's a matter of, for me, even realistically, there probably won't ever be an independent president in our lifetimes. But I think for me, it's more of a principle thing. And I just think that the average voter needs to stick to their guns and to their principles more. And then I can also see the other side where you just want to see a realistic winner. And so you do support the person that you perceive as valuable, even though they may not be as valuable as they could have been if they left outside of that system. And so It's very complicated. It's not easy. If it was that
No, it's
easy,
not.
we
And I
would have
think,
the answers.
you definitely said, and we keep talking about president, and you're right. I think where third parties can make the most impact is running for local offices like
Mhm.
governor, Congress, city council.
Mhm.
One thing I'm going to be advocating for, especially within the Indiana Green Party, who I work with, is there's a bunch of offices. I know this is getting out there, and the Democrats will probably see it, but I hope they
Oh, who
don't.
cares?
There's a lot of offices that are vacant. Nobody's running for them. Get those offices. And the
Mhm.
reason you get those offices, one, you can tell people, hey, look at all the people we have elected. You stick to your values. You never lose your values. Then when you get that win, that gives you confidence to run for Congress. And then that you
100%.
do well in Congress, then you can start running for governor and then state senator and then United States senator. And then it just kind of builds. So you get those little offices, and they're not little, but you find out, hey, is somebody running this race? And if the answer is no, we're going to run for it.
Mhm. So you're in Indianapolis right now?
I am.
Were you born and raised there?
I was born and raised.
And how would you describe growing up in Indianapolis as far as just finding yourself as a person? Would you say that you grew up and had positive outlooks about the future of the country at the time, as opposed to the person that you are now?
Um, Growing up in Indianapolis and living in Indianapolis and really never living outside of the place I was born, it's definitely, Indiana is definitely a red state.
Mm-hmm.
Red is one of the reddest states. Where like Texas Junior. No, we're Texas better. Like we take something Texas does and then we just go all the way stupid with it. I'm like, okay, y'all really gonna just do this? Like, I'll give you an example. In Texas, they have the anti-abortion law where they say, we'll give you, we'll give some snitch. I didn't say snitch. I didn't say snitch. I was about to. We'll give some person $10,000 if they tell us a woman is having an abortion. Where they're going to get the $10,000, I don't know. But Indiana says, no, we'll make it 20. It's like, come on, where are y'all getting this money from, first of all? But Indiana is a red state, but I live in a blue city.
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis is blue to its core, but it's blue light. It's like, it's neoliberal. That's why I'll describe it. Like, the city will definitely vote Biden president, Hogshead as mayor. It's hard for a hardcore Republican to do anything in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up. This is so hard because I grew up, and I don't like to use the term religious.
No, that's fine. Whatever you want to describe.
But for the audience, I'm Christian. That's the way I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
Many ministers in the family. So I grew up in that realm. But I also, because of my upbringing, realized, there's a lot of stuff wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of stuff wrong, and I need to do something about it. And that's just basically my frame of looking at things. In terms of being to the left, I pretty much, at 18, I voted for Ralph Nader.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was just Nader, then I got fooled by Obama. And then
we all did. We all got fooled by him.
Oh boy, I said he was the worst president of all time, and people, no, tell me something good. Name me one thing. Just name me one.
That powerful racial symbolism at work.
And that's important. It is important. We should have more Black presidents. We definitely should. We should definitely have one president because he's the first. He's significant. I'm never going to take that away from him. He's our first Black president. As a Black American, proud. His policies, garbage. Garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Kamala, vice president, African American, West Indian. It's significant, but what are you doing with it? But in terms of how I think, I've always leaned left. Always leaned left. I've never identified. I mean, I've never identified with the Democratic Party.
That's
I,
awesome.
I
Yeah.
just never have. Now,
Mhm.
yes, I did vote for Hillary. I'm so ashamed of myself that I voted for it. I'm ashamed. Like, I'm ashamed that I fell for that argument. Well, if you vote for against her, you're gonna get Trump. Well, I voted for her
Got
and I
Trump anyway.
still got Trump. So what are you talking about?
Mhm.
And I think that really woke me up. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, I voted the way y'all told me, and we still got an orange felon in office. What is
Mhm.
we still got the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really it's a slippery slope, and it's such a defining where the line is can be so difficult. Just like with the labels, and I've had to learn over the years to kind of refrain from the labeling. But I do identify again as a left libertarian. But it wasn't until 2 years ago till I started opening myself up to maybe looking at other third parties and talking to those people. And so I've talked to Spike Cohen a couple of times now. He's going to join the show again in December. And I never thought I would talk to people like that previously. But once I talked to people from even people in the Constitution Party, certain issues, if I talk to different kinds of people, I realize that we do have a lot in common. It's just issue by issue, maybe that's the approach. Maybe we can coalition build based on major issues like Medicare for All, student loan debt cancellation. I think you can work across the aisle with different types of ideologies, but I think in this climate that we're in, they don't encourage that at all. They don't encourage you to
Right. And that's what
work
I'm saying,
together.
when it comes to the president, we all coalesce behind a candidate. But
Hmm.
locally, if the Constitution, and I'm gonna have to talk to you off the air about how to get in contact with those departments, because some reason I'm having trouble getting guests. I don't
Okay.
know why. I'm like, why? Look at me. I'm not gonna look. I know you're not gonna turn to stone by looking at me. I promise. I need guests for the Tracy show. I just because what I want to do, even if I don't, there is a third party. I definitely disagree with the majority of what they believe. But I'm
Hmm.
still willing to have them on, one, because I'm always willing to learn something.
Hmm.
And I'm always willing to say, okay, I didn't think about it like that. And I'm wanting that voice to be amplified.
Hmm.
And I know that, I'm just doing my little part to do it, to make people think, you know what? What have these two parties done for me? Nothing. Oh, let me vote for this third person.
Hmm.
And if we could get a third party city council member, oh, I'm happy.
Hmm.
Third party governor, extremely happy. Third party president, I'll be 105, but that's okay. Because I think, we obviously talk about president because that's like the big office. But again, we need to focus on those offices, those seats that like nobody wants them. Nobody's running for them. You build that confidence. And if you can build that confidence, then you can fundraise, because I hate this. No, I don't hate to say it. Nothing's free. It takes money to get exposure. It takes money to make flyers. It takes money to get gas. It takes money to feed people. It takes money. Sorry, third party people, it does. That kind of momentum I want to get started.
Hmm.
And I think the more diversity that we have is going to be better. And Constance will be the first female that I interview,
Hmm.
which is
That's
going to
awesome.
that's going to be awesome, because my first show, I've just talked to a male, and then the second show is going to be a male. She'll be the first female, and I always, especially with women, love to talk to them about, why do you want to run as an independent? How do you feel as a woman your needs aren't being met by the Republicans? So that's going to be I can't wait for that one because that's going to be an
She's
interesting conversation.
She's going to be an unbelievable interview. Let me tell you, she dedicated 2 hours of her time with us on Kiko's Freethinkers Forum back in July, I think. And we're actually hosting a town hall for her at the end of the month, locally in my hometown of Franklin, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. So we got a town hall organized for her. Hopefully a lot of people can come out. She's running for governor of Tennessee again, Constance Every. She's an unbelievable candidate. If you're looking for someone who has an anti-establishment lens, who's a real leftist, not these fake left blue people, she's definitely a person that you should take a second look at. Did you go to any of the Medicare for All marches that were happening last year?
Well,
summer?
you just got to that. Okay. So I actually organized the Indian march. I'm like, no, let's not talk about that. Yes. I would, and I hate to say I did it. All I did was come up with the date and then gather a bunch of people together.
But thanks for your service. We appreciate that.
People are like, no, you're the leader. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. But Indiana had our march July 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have one in 2023. So yes, I did attend, plan, and organize a march.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you if there was any media presence at all. I think I know the answer to that.
The answer is surprisingly yes.
Really?
We had one, and one is better than none. We had
one.
And I didn't make the news. They didn't. We kept looking. We're like, okay, did they put us on? Which they didn't. But I got interviewed by our local station. Is it WTHR? Oh, well, Channel 13. Well, I'm just gonna call them Channel 13 because I don't know their letters. Yet no media presence. Mailed out press releases, but no media presses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's purposeful and intentional.
Of course. It's there were, just for the audience to know, last summer there were 50 states involved in the Medicare for All marches. Every state in the country, there were major rallies for Medicare for All.
Well, actually 49. Indiana was not in the first march. And
I got you.
That's literally what that is. I'm glad you said it, and I did not mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good.
That's what made me want our march, because I was like, wait a minute, all these states are where the tarnation are we at? We need Medicare for all. Like, we don't have no health concerns. We don't have no health issues. Come on, really? And that thing made me say, okay, Indiana's having a march. Actually, I take that back. I was gonna take a sandwich board and just write Medicare for all and just walk downtown. And then I said, no, I'm gonna get other people to help me.
And just so the audience knows what Trace is hitting on is really important. A lot of what we talk about, Tracy and I, our shows kind of coalesce, is we believe in direct action, not just electoral politics. Electoral politics is not going to save our lives. We have to put pressure on the outside in order for the inside to even consider what the actual people want on the ground. So direct action is going to be a key component to our future. And I would argue that direct action is probably more powerful than electoral politics at this point, only because we know that the mainstream media is not on our side. We know that everyone that can be against us is against us, that has the money to be against us. And so it's going to take an effort from everyday people that includes people that we don't necessarily like talking to face, but when it comes to getting goals accomplished together, maybe that's what it takes. And you know, at those marches, some of the people that I followed, they said that, you know, you had Trump people out there, you had people from all different persuasions out there in the marches. And sometimes that's what it takes. You know, you can't reject people. If they're on board with the issue that you care about, let those people join in and push it too. I don't see the point of, you know, breaking it off or cutting it off at a certain point. It's like if someone shares something in common with you and it's for the good of the people, support that idea.
Yep, you gotta let some things go. Now, you know, when we did Medicare for All march, I was like, okay, I will be happy with 10. That was my goal, 10 people. course, we had 100 show up.
That's awesome. Good.
Everybody says that, but I'm like, well, it's 6 million people in the state of Indiana. Now, how come? And I'm always looking for the higher goal. Like I'm always wanting like 50,000 people to show up. And then if 50,000 show up, I'll be like, well, how come 250? Like I move the goalpost in terms of personal, and I should stop doing that. But what this march did, and someone said it, and I'm glad he said this to me, he was like, you planted a seed. And if you plant the seed, fertilize it, and let it grow, then it's going to become bigger. And people say, oh, well, marches don't do anything. And I disagree. Marches, if planned well, even if the crowd isn't as high as intended or you want it, you're out there raising your voice. You're letting people know this is an issue. And in terms of direct action, I point to the Starbucks workers protest. That's the best example of direct action. And I wish, like, we can't throw away electoral process, because what some of the things we want, it takes legislation to do. We just can't say, okay, it's no good. But direct action, I definitely agree with you. It's more effective because it's touching people where they are.
Exactly.
That those Starbucks protests are really getting people to see, oh, well, maybe we can protest, you know, if they can be successful, and then the Amazon workers can be successful, then maybe you start getting Walmart workers to protest, and then you start getting, and it builds from there.
Yeah, it's a mindset. And I tell you, and some people may not agree with this, but I would argue that what you and I are doing a direct action. I think the first direct action that we have to do is to have a psychological change direct action. I think people are so brainwashed, and so our jobs are to at least give someone a different perspective. And what you're talking about, the 100 people that came out to support you last year, that's 100 people. That's a lot of people, depending on what they do with that message. Who do they communicate with after that? And so it's a matter of getting the word out. And sometimes individual to individual level is more effective than just having a big broadcast. And I think I've tried to do that with friends and family, and I've had some good conversations over these last 3 or 4 years that wouldn't have been possible, I think, previously, but because we decided to kind of like be a little bit more vulnerable, talk about some things that we didn't want to talk about. Maybe you see that people are closer aligned to you than you realized before. And maybe that's what it takes for those people to kind of get swayed a little bit more.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. Like I said, if there's a person out there watching that's thinking about, now let me backtrack this. So we want you to do direct action on things that make sense or morally the right thing. Don't do the opposite. Don't be out here talking about white nationalism. You don't do any direct. You stay home. You don't do nothing. I'm
direct
talking
yourself to the house.
Yeah, you leave that mess at home. I'm talking to the regular people. I'm talking to the rest of us. If you want to do a direct action, do it. You have literally, and this is one thing I really learned, and I hate to say I organized it because I really don't feel like it. I feel like, yeah, I got some things together, but it was
you did.
It was a coalition of people coming together and saying, okay, we're gonna do this. Everybody kept trying to throw that leader thing on me. I'm like, no. But unfortunately, you do a direct action, people are going to perceive you as the leader. That I'll say it that way. But do it anyway. If it's just you, do it anyway. If it's you and your friend, do it anyway. If it's you, your friend, your mother, and your church, do it anyway. That's what I want to tell people is if you want a direct action, if you want to run, as a third party candidate, do it anyway. Don't listen to the poison of you're taking away votes. Okay, yes. You know what I would say? Sometimes I wish I could run for office, but I'm too mouthy and that's not gonna work for me. I can't see because I just say what I think. And I'm like, okay, I really don't care how you take it. I wish somebody would come up in my face. Yeah, I'm talking like I'm just talking to my cousin. I wish
That's
somebody
nothing wrong with that.
come up to me to my you're taking away votes. I sure am. I definitely am taking away votes. Your point being what? What have they done to secure the vote? What have they done for you? Yes, I'm taking away their votes. I'm going to keep taking away their votes until we get what we want. And if they are out of a job as a politician, oh well. I wish somebody would say that you're taking away the vote. Yes, and you're probably being what?
It's that simple. And I tell you, Tracy, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, and I made this argument because I have a personal friend, Tyler, that he came on and did the podcast with me. I think it was episode 8. And he is a type of voter that I think that the average person is like. He's trying to discover himself politically. He just got into politics a few years ago, but he realizes that there's something wrong with the political system. He just can't put his finger on it. And so we kind of went into the reasons to why he felt that way. And I just tried to ask him, like, what is it? What are your principles? You know, that's kind of the first thing you need to start at. What are the issues that you care about the most? And I've seen some people write, that should be a requirement really for like 20, like a questionnaire, 20 questions, and then kind of rate the issues and then go into why you feel that way about the issues. I just think that the average voter, they shame you for having principles as to why you want to vote for candidate A, B, and C, but then they don't give you any reason at all to vote the reason why they want to vote.
It's because they're brainwashed. We as a society are brainwashed by the media. Well, basically it's the media's fault. I'll stop at the media. The average voter is brainwashed. They literally think I have to vote for this. We backtrack. Nobody wanted Joe Biden as president. Nobody sat there and said, you know what? I'm going to vote for this conservative Republican and he'll make way more sense than this orange-faced man. No, you just wanted to get rid of Trump. And a lot of people who voted for Biden, that's literally what they said. I'm like, we can't have Trump. I argue you still have him because you have a lot of his policies still going, but that's a whole nother podcast. And I don't know if Kiko was ever going to have me on, so I'm going to just take my shot while I got it.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm loving this. I like this laid back and casual. That's the way I prefer.
We're so brainwashed. And I don't know if this has happened to you. When I tell people, hey, I voted for a third party candidate for president. Well, why did you do that? You took away Biden's vote. First of all, my vote doesn't belong to anybody. I vote for who I want to vote for if I want. If I want to vote for a frog for president, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to write down Kermit D. Frog. You don't tell me how I'm going to vote anytime, Now, that's my sister girl attitude, but I'm going to back it up and be professional, Tracy. We are so brainwashed that when someone comes and agitates that and says, no, this third option exists, you're challenging their thinking that's already established. And most people can't take that. Most people are conditioned to open their minds and say, you know what? I was wrong. I'm going to vote this way instead. It's really hard for people to say, I was wrong when I voted for XYZ. Like I will say, hey, I was wrong for voting for Obama twice. Hurts the crap out of me because I did it. But I have to say it because that opens my mind to, oh, well, this candidate is saying exactly what I believe. They line up with me 90% because my threshold is 80 because no candidate is going to line up with me 100%. Never is going to happen. But if they're at that 80, okay, we're good.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an important point too, just to kind of, what are you willing to, I guess, quote unquote, give up,
Right.
but have demands in place. And if you know those demands, what they are, that's the crucial part into, at least into my decision making when it comes to if I do participate, because I haven't participated consistently, but when I do participate, it's very calculated, and it's exactly for a reason. Like this is what they said, and that's what I'm taking from the message. And
I'm so, and I don't like calling other podcasts name, which I won't do on this one, but there's even progressive or leftist, so-called leftist podcasts that say, oh, you got to vote for this person because they're better than this person.
Which is just not a leftist podcast, if they're doing that kind of stuff.
And they give me a lot of leftist news, but I feel you, but I'm with you, but then I'm not with you, but I'm with you, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying.
But people will say that and believe it, but let me give you an example. When I talk to people about Medicare For All, oh, I agree with that. Okay, you agree with that. How about $15? I'm going to say $15 minimum wage, but it really should be 24.
For sure.
But we're going to just go with 15 because it's still $7.25, which is a joke. Okay, so $15 minimum wage, you agree with that? Yeah, okay. Joe Biden is against both of those things. He literally said of Medicare For All, if it gets to my desk, I'll veto it. Which that meant automatically, hey, you out. And then he supposedly was for $15 minimum wage. It got defeated. And has it came back yet? I don't see it. Where is it at? You fighting for what? You fighting because you want Democrats in Congress, but they're going to do the same thing. What I wish would happen is that people would go to the polls and nobody wins. And I'll say, I wish Americans would say, you know, we're going to all go. We're going to just write in nobody and see what happens.
No, that'd be so funny.
That would be hilariously true. But if you just look at it in the two systems, now we're going to take out the independent for a second, and then I'll put them back in. But if you just look at it in the two-party system, if you vote for Trump, is that really any different from voting for Biden? Like, where are you different? Like, if you took, like, I believe in comparing candidates in terms of issues. Trump's against Medicare For All. Trump's against $15 minimum wage. Trump's against the Green New Deal. Trump's against, I'm trying to think of something else, $2,000 minimum checks for this due to the pandemic, which we're still in. I look at Biden, same thing. I'm seeing two. One is named Donald, one is named Joseph.
No doubt.
But they're not the same. And in terms of, well, you'll get more with the Democrats, because that's one of the arguments. Literally, I got tired of arguing it. I'm like, no, I'm just not. What have we really gotten under Biden? I mean, if you technically look at it, Trump gave us more stimulus than Biden did. Oh, I made that point. People go, oh, what's it? No, I'm like, no. Trump gave us $1,200, then $600, that's $1,800. Biden's giving $1,400. It's like, yeah, good. Not that either amount is great, because we still should be getting checks. But I'm just saying, people, there's red MAGA.
And there's blue.
And then there's definitely blue. And people are just like, you can, no, we're not. No, you're just the same. You're just the same. Only difference is y'all haven't gone to the Capitol and burned down stuff. That's pretty much the only difference. But in terms of your exploring criticism of the current administration, you don't take it. It's like everything Biden does is just gold. Everything Trump does gold.
Well, because the ruling class, the ruling class has Biden's interest, and so.
And the ruling class has Trump's interest, and that's what I try to get to people. Like, look, people will literally say they're the same. You're the same. Okay, you just said that they're the same. I'm saying they're the same. Now I'm just asking you, vote differently. That's all I'm asking. What do you have to lose? You literally have nothing to lose. And when they win, not if. I hate when a third party candidate comes on my show, please stop saying if you win. Don't do that to me. You got to speak that. Well, I'm getting all into my religion here. But if you run, you got to want to win. Don't just run for an office because, run to win. Run to change things. Run because you see things are wrong. But when you run and when you win, say when I win, I'm going to prove your opinion right, that they are the same, but I'm different because I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And when you get elected, do that, and that. That's all.
No, something you hit on there, and I want to segue into a question that we haven't talked about yet, but we've covered it indirectly before we conclude later on. Something you said about third-party candidates, a trend I've noticed is we talked about the money problems that third-party candidates have. I honestly, and I'm not even going to single out names, I think that there's an issue with energy level. I will sing out a name. Howard Hawkins, I'm sorry, has no energy at all. I voted for Howard Hawkins last election. He has no energy whatsoever, just flatliner. And I think a lot of people see that. And it seems like a lot of the third-party candidates just lack enthusiasm. It's like they have this attitude, like they're doubting themselves before they even go into
right.
public.
It's like they're just running to raise an issue. And that's, I can raise an issue. I can say, hey, we need Medicare for all. I don't have to run for office to say we need Medicare for all.
Exactly.
But I'm with you. If you're going to waste my time, and I'm saying waste, running for office, you better believe you're going to win this thing. You got to be in this thing to win this thing. Stop with the, if we could just get 2%. Bump 2%. I want 55% because I know I can win. And people are always asking me, Tracy, run for office. No, I don't run unless I know I can win. And I won't run with the intention of losing. I won't. And I think that's where a lot of third-party candidates get it wrong. They run with the intention of losing. And I say, no, you run with the intention of winning. You do everything you can do to win. No doubt. Stop using the word if, it's when.
And I'm going to keep it 100%. This is a very transparent forum. Again, we don't censor ourselves. And I'm not going to interview this person anyway, so I'm just going to out them anyway. Howard Hawkins, like I said, I have no interest in interviewing him.
I did actually interview him.
You did interview Howie? When you do that?
Last year I did.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's no reflection on you. I'm just saying me personally towards him. A lot of people that I talked to thought that Angela Walker should have been the top of the ticket and he should have been the bottom.
Yeah, Angela. Oh,
a lot of people said that. And but see, we go into the identity issues. This is my thing about it. I think identity politics can be a good thing if they're used in the right way. And someone like an Angela Walker, I think that's the right kind of candidate that I could get behind. But for me, I kind of question, like earlier we talked about Obama and Kamala Harris. To me, being just for the sake of being Black doesn't mean anything if it's just going to be symbolic. I want it to mean something. If it's going to be something, be about something. And I'm not taking away his moment or her moment, but I just think that Kamala became the template because of Obama. I think that she became a continuum of Obama based on the virtue signaling that happened before, because we had a bump for 2 terms. And we know what happened under the 2 terms for Black people. You would argue that he's anti-Black president, just like all of them have been. Margaret Kimberly, if you read her book Prejudicial, she makes the argument that every president has been anti-Black. And so that's another thing I want to talk about.
Say the name of that book again so I can get it.
It's called Prejudicial, Black America and the Presidents, Prejudential. I interviewed Margaret in a previous episode 4. And I get the links and everything there, but it's a must-read book.
Yeah, because I'm like, even though, because I have a Saturday show too, I'm like, I would literally love to discuss that, because I think as Black Americans, we are so hungry for, well, they'll accept us now. where we should be thinking, I don't care if they accept us. I'm going to do what is right. I'm going to do what is necessary. But because we're so hungry for, okay, now we're established. Now we're in. No, you just literally elected someone that's like the other ones, except for he's dark.
It's a figurehead. It's a figurehead.
Yes, exactly. Good luck saying that to my group, because boy, I got slaughtered. I'm like, well, no, you're not going to tell me he's not the work. No, you're not going to tell me that. No, no.
I went on a podcast last year, and I got censored apart. I compared Kamala and Obama. I said that that's what modern day blackface is using black people. You don't even have to use white people anymore. You just use black people.
Yeah, you just get some black person, pay them off like Candace Owens, and then you got it. Boom.
Exactly. It's the same thing. And a lot of people like to play it both ways, that you can't apply that to the blue side, only the red side. I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me? It's just a different colored plantation. And so that—
yeah, it's the same plantation. Look, folks, it's the same plantation. You don't see that he was a neoliberal. You can't see it. You can't admit, this is another thing, get back to my previous point I made earlier. You can't admit that he was a failure to the black community, because in your mind, you put down one black person, you put them all down, which that's not true. Some black people are just idiots. I'm just gonna say it. Some of us, not the majority of us are not, but some of us are just idiots. When you talk about a black politician, okay, so you're gonna criticize Tim Scott, who's the Republican, crazy Republican, but you'll praise Cory Booker, who's just like, no, they're both garbage.
Ridiculous.
Yes, they're both.
Jim Clyburns, oh my gosh.
Oh, please don't start. See, you have things to do. And starting me on Jim Clyburn is gonna make you late for whatever else you got planned today.
I got time, but it's just so the audience can know that these fake black leaders, this fake Congressional Black Caucus, all these fake figureheads.
Why are you hitting on things that make me angry? Because I'm so frustrated. The so-called, see, what they need is people like us on the Congressional Black Caucus.
Of course they do.
That's what they
wouldn't allow us in, though.
But they're not going to allow us in. Yes, they allowed Cory Booker in. Yes, they allowed Ilya Omar. Yes, they allowed, those. I don't know if, what's his name? Jamal Bowman. I don't know if he's on.
Yeah, that black day in. Ayanna Pressley, all of them.
Oh, they're all in there.
Karen Bass, all of them. If they're black, they're in.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it is. Again, it's just, how's that? It's just a captured audience at that point. You just
I'm like, nah, I'm cool. I'm black, but I ain't joining y'all, because y'all's a joke. Y'all is literally, they campaigned against Nina Turner in Ohio. She's speaking against Joe Biden. I wish I lived in Ohio. I'd be like, and what's your point? What has Joe Biden did for anybody black? Please tell me.
Yeah.
The child tax credit. Okay, I'll give you that the child tax credit helped a lot of people. It's going to be permanent, except for when it's not. We have that, which is why I said, either email me the title of that book, because I'll forget. I'll be like,
I will, no doubt.
Yeah, because I would love to have somebody on like that, because I think that we have that attitude of that plantation attitude. Is like, okay, this person ascended. They can literally be the most unqualified, corporatist, elitist, systematic Democrat. Okay, we achieved. No, we achieved because of people like Fannie Lou Hamer and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey. That's when we achieved, not this, I'm going to take this $1 million from pharmaceutical companies because they told me to vote against Medicare for All, so that's what I got to do, black people. So, yeah, that's a discussion I really would love to have, a really honest discussion. And since I just got in my head and you're here with me, I don't know when we'll do it, but can I invite you to be on that podcast?
On your podcast?
Yes, because I want to have a special forum.
Of course, I love to do that.
I don't know when it'll be. I don't know whoever else we can get, but yes.
I'd love to do that. No doubt.
Yeah, because the idea just literally popped in my head. I'm like, yeah, what we could do is this.
Yeah, there was something on the tip of my tongue I want to say about I don't know if it was about third party, about Black people, the way they think. I know I want to ask you one final question about the generational divide between Black people and these psyches that we're talking about. The pressure that we go under, especially us, we go more than any other group, I feel, whether it's religion, politics, we really, when we break against the cycle, it seems like it's 10 times magnified against the community that you're in, the family that you're in. It just seems like, luckily for my personal family, my family has been very understanding of me and my personal views and just my identity as a person. And I've never had those issues, with my own family, but I know that's not the same for Blacks that think like I do. And other people is like, I'm definitely more of an anomaly. And I'm grateful. I'm glad that I have the parents that I had growing up, to sort of tell me to be confident and go do what makes you feel right. Don't do it for someone else, do it for yourself. And so I don't think a lot of us are encouraged to go against the grain.
No, we're not.
And I almost feel like we get extra credit when we do things that really are more mainstream, when that's really not what you want to do in your heart, but you get more credit for that because that's what everyone else wants you to do. And so it looks good to them, but you're hurting inside because the real you is not ever going to be represented.
That's a great question you've asked, because the way I grew up, my family literally thinks Tracy's a liberal.
Oh, yeah.
If when I come into the room, it's like, oh, there's Tracy. She's gonna talk about something. It's like that's the type of presence I bring. She's that one in the family.
Right.
I'm probably not the person to invite for Thanksgiving. I mean, I come because I'm coming anyway. But the way I've always viewed, my religion. Oh, I hate saying religion because I'm like, Christianity is not a religion, but it is. But okay, anyway, I've always viewed it as you have to take the narrow road. You can't take the broad road. If you take the broad road, you're going to get distracted. You're going to get sidetracked. If you take that narrow road in terms of your goals, then you're on the right track. The more narrow the road, the more you're on your track. And I realize, in terms of what I advocate for, not everybody's going to be with me. Not everybody's going to agree. For some reason, people literally think that if you get Medicare for All, you're going to lose your doctor. I don't know how many times I've said, no, this isn't true. You have to stop thinking that way. This is the way it actually works. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, but I don't want to lose my doctor. Okay, now I just told you. It's like you're in a constant cycle. But I've always strived to be that voice. I don't know why, because I'm not the best speaker, but I know in terms of politics, I know what I believe. I know what I believe. I know what I advocate for. My struggle is saying it in a way that makes sense. Because what I don't want to use is start going around, well, you should really vote for John Smith because he's not a neoliberal, and then get a look like, a what? I want to say it in a way that makes sense to people. And I think we need to go out, we do rallies, marches, protests, which are important. We do, direct actions, but most of the time to reach that wide audience, the path is going to be narrow, and it's going to take getting more and more volunteers to reach that person individually, if that's making any sense.
I think Tracy, what you're hitting on is what we talked about earlier. I think it's a psychological block, and I think the biggest form of direct action that we as Black people especially can take is desensitizing people's psychology, because I think it's a psychological block that's allowing this system to continue the way it's been for so long, is because people do not want to go in the direction of what their brain is telling them to go in, because they're listening to other people's emotions and other people's grievances. But just because you've done something for so long doesn't mean that that's, maybe for that time, that's not the way to go. You know, the way to go is always to embrace the inner Tracy. And it's not even the way you talk. Is who cares about that stuff? The way you talk and stuff is, those people are either going to get your message or they're not going to get the message, because they don't want to get the message. They understand the language that we're speaking. It's a psychological block from them,
because they've been brainwashed. I mean, we've all been brainwashed.
I've been, yeah, same here. Yeah.
All of us have been brainwashed. But I think for us on the left, sometimes we present ourselves as the enlightened.
Oh yeah.
And we need to back that all the way up and stop that stuff, because it doesn't, like, no, I'm just like you. I struggle. Even though I make X amount of dollars on my job, I'm still struggling. There's times that I have to delay. Now, I always take my medications. I don't want anybody to think I'm not taking it. But sometimes I have to wait until I get paid to get my medications. I have to come up with creative ways to put food on the table. I had to come up with creative ways to pay my rent, just like everybody else. And I think if we presented ourselves in that way, instead of this, oh, I'm enlightened and I'm smarter than you. And we need to stop that and say, hey, John Smith, you can't put food on the table, join the club. I can't either. And especially the third party candidates. Oh, well, y'all stop this. Tell a story about you struggling. You're the person that you're asking to vote for you. If you do that, you'll be way more successful. I'm not anybody's campaign manager, but I put it out there. I'm open to doing that, because I think a lot of third party candidates, that's where they get it wrong. They literally get it wrong when they don't present authentic stories about their own struggles with the system and why they're running to change that.
I think the label too left is also, it can be problematic, because I recognize that you and I have leftist views, but I think a lot of people who consider themselves leftists aren't leftists at all. And I say that because I see this in the academic class, because I'm a professor, I'm a doctor. And so, but the people in my field don't share my politics at all. They don't. They're neoliberals. They're part of the establishment. And to me, you can't be a true leftist until you embrace, like, there had to be certain ideologies that you have to embrace to be a leftist. To me, a person that doesn't advocate for Black issues can't be considered a true leftist if you're in that arena. But that's what they do. They use, it's a classist attitude. There's a lot of class issues within the left, and like internal racism within the left too. So
exactly,
a lot of people who say that they're left, it's not the same kind of left that I am, because you will say one thing, but then it's like these same people they won't promote anything that's like
you mean like reparations?
Reparations, HBCUs, and guess what? And I would make the argument, and like I said, I don't like this guy at all, but I've said in several forums before, and I've done like tons of podcasts, and if there were two people left on earth just with the binary thing, I would have to choose the orange man over the guy that's in now, only because if I'm looking at issues, I don't believe that the Russia debacle would have happened under him. I look at it beyond just the United States. I think the global situation would be better under Trump. That's not to say that he's not an interventionist, but he's less of an interventionist than Joe Biden is. Joe Biden is a known war hawk. That's what he does.
Yeah, I'm gonna slightly disagree with you.
And also on the legislation realm, I look at what affects Black people.
Right.
There's no question that Joe Biden has harmed Black people more than Trump on the legislation realm. And so I held that against him. I didn't vote for Trump, but I also didn't vote for him either, because you cannot sit up here and endorse the 1994 crime bill and say that that was a good thing for Black people, considering that my brother has been he's been punished because of that law in particular, and a lot of Black people that I know. And so I look at the actions that result from those laws that are written. Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. He started it in 1981. I remind my listeners this all the time, that this was a calculated, planned out situation. He is the law and order president. He is. And so his actions have kind of spoken to that, but he gets no criticism for that whatsoever. And to me, it goes into the whole idea of if it concerns Black people, let's not prioritize.
Yeah, let's put it on the back burner.
Put it on the back burner. Let's not criticize him when he caused that harm, because if we know if the other one caused the harm, it would be front street. It would be all over the news. But because it's him, he doesn't get the criticize.
And I'm just like, pass. Yep. And I agree with the majority of what you said.
I get what you're saying.
But Trump, in terms, I do think the Russia situation still would have happened in terms of them invading
Possibly, yeah.
Ukraine, because Putin is just a moronic idiot that was going to do it anyway. I don't like to play what if games. I just like to deal with what I actually see. Mm-hmm. When I look at Trump's policies, my thing is the same thing would have happened because they're both the same.
Right, they are both the same. They are.
If you look at when Trump allegedly locked children in cages, that was horrible. But we forgot that Obama did exactly the same thing. How come we didn't criticize Obama for locking? Yep, people gonna say he didn't like children in cages. Look it up. I'm not lying. Mm-hmm. Everything I'm saying is true. We didn't criticize him because he's Black. Let's just put it the way it is. We didn't criticize him for it because he's Black. He got no media clapback. Trump does exactly the same thing, and he's a horrible person. Well, how come this person wasn't horrible? Biden still has children separated from their parents. There are still children and parents in what I call concentration camps, because that's what they are. You can't criticize him on that. Oh, well, he's better than Trump. How is he better than Trump? I want anybody that disagrees with us to tell me. You can email me at tracymediallc@gmail.com, and you tell me anything that Biden has done that's better than Trump.
They can't tell you.
And don't use the child tax credit because it's disappeared. You tell me something current, and I'll listen. But until you tell me, no.
It's just a continuation. All these administrations are just continuations. I mean, just like George W. Bush, he created ICE. He created the border control. And people are praising him now because of the Cheney and the Bush alliance. And these good Republicans are now forming, which it just proves our point more that the Democrats and Republicans are the same party to begin with. That the Cheney people are now friendly with the Clintons and Obamas, those kind of people, the Bushes, all the.
Well, that's what warmongers do. They all hang together.
They hang together.
Flock together. I mean, really, Obama and Bush are friends. Yeah, birds of a feather flock together. What do we do? This is what we know this as people. We literally, and I'm talking about everybody, we know this as people, but we will do the same thing every election. We'll go in there and we'll vote the same and expect different results. And we got to stop that. We as voters have to stop going in the booth, voting for the Republicans, and then expect, oh, everything's going to change. It won't change until we change the system. We have to change the system by getting third-party candidates in office that will do something. And until we do, nothing's going to change.
But two things I thought about when you said that. OpenSecrets.org, if people haven't went to that site, go to the site.
Oh, that's a great site.
When Washington Post is funded the Democratic Party, when you see where the money is going to the certain parties, you see why the news is the way it is, because it's all tied together with the political party establishment, the news corporations, they're all corporations. Like you said, they shouldn't even be called parties, they should be called corporations. You said that from a previous video, and I loved it when you said that it should be the Democratic corporation, the Republican corporation, because that's what it is. And I think open dialogue is the reason why we have this situation. We're taught, we all have opinions, but we don't want to share our opinions with each other because we have family members, maybe have different politics and views, but you're told not to share your political views. You're told not to share your religion with other people. You're told not to share your personal things with people, even though people publicize them whenever they want to publicize them. But you're not taught to talk with other people. You don't talk with other people. You do it privately. And so you create these different elevators, is what I call them. You just have different rooms, different elevators. And so you do that enough to people, and you don't have to have conversations about the actual issues, and that's why each time it comes about, people in your church might vote a certain way. People are going to vote as a block. They're not talking with each other, like openly trying to figure out like what's the best solutions. It's just a tribal mentality every single time. It's just, let's do what the tribe tells me to do. Let me do what my social club tells me, what my family tells me to do, what my parents tell me. It's like we're taught not to think for ourselves at all.
Or vote for ourselves.
And
literally, and I think this is what has always frustrated me into creating the Tracy Show is, and I said it in this podcast previously, we literally vote against our own best interest. And then we're surprised when things don't work out and things don't improve. That's because you're voting for losers. Stop voting for losers. Stop saying, well, this person can win. Winning's not the only thing, because obviously you have to win office to legislate. I'm not going to be that stupid. But making a difference is more important.
Mm-hmm.
It's more important to vote for, even if you're the only person voting for that candidate. Stop thinking, oh, well, I'm voting for this person because they're going to win. You vote that way and you're going to keep losing. You're going to keep losing because they're going to keep taking corporate money. They're going to keep voting for party interests. They're going to keep voting against your interests.
Mm-hmm.
Stop voting for the person that wins and start voting for who you want to win. Because I literally think people would have voted differently if they knew about the choices.
100%, definitely.
But we have this thing in this country, but we vote because they're going to win. What is winning when a homeless person is on the street? Mm-hmm. What is winning when we don't have our minimum wage is $7.25? What is winning when we don't have Medicare For All, a Green New Deal, student loan debt cancellation? We don't have a monthly stipend due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What did you accomplish by voting for someone who was simply going to win? And I can't answer that question.
Those are very important questions to raise. And it's not something that people think about, I think, enough at all. We talked about something earlier. Constance is an active candidate. And so I will share this with our particular conversation because it's relevant to what we were saying earlier. So in Tennessee, when she runs as an independent, there's a bunch of local Black leadership, like in statewide leadership that are Black, and they have these caucuses. And I think I might be right describing that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Constance can elaborate on that more. But basically what she told me is that you had Carnita Atwater was a Democratic candidate, Black woman. You had J.B. Smiley, a Black man, Democrat candidate. And you have Jason Martin, the white male candidate. Guess who the Black leadership votes for?
I would say Jason Martin.
They all endorse Jason Martin.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I bet they endorsed the Jason Martin. I bet.
Which begs the question, why?
Because they thought they could win with them. It's simply, again, it's that thinking. We got to endorse, we got to go. Again, that's my problem with the Congressional Black Caucus, which people don't remember. They actually did endorse Hillary Clinton when she was running against Obama. But see, I bring up that, but that is literally again, people voting against their best interest or endorsing against their best interest. You didn't even have to tell me. I'm like, I bet you they went with the white guy. I bet you they went with the white guy because they thought this is our best chance.
And just to make a point, and this is why I don't believe that strategy works with
it doesn't, but I bet you that's what they were thinking.
So Jason Martin, he got 39.4% of the vote for to run against Bill Lee, the incumbent Republican governor. J.B. Smiley, 38.8%, so he only lost by 0.6%. So think about that mentality. People have told you that they can't win, but they only end up losing by less than a few thousand votes. I wonder what would have happened if people had a different mindset. What would have been the result? You know, but again, people don't think like that. And so because of the brainwashing, they actually helped Martin get the nomination, 39.4%.
And you know what's gonna happen? Constance is gonna smoke both of them, and they're gonna be like, "What happened? What happened?"
I love Constance, and I hope that your platform gives her visibility, and you know, hopefully, what we both do collectively can kind of push her to the finish line. Is there anything else, Tracy, that you want to share? I think this was like a good introduction to you and your views, and I definitely want to have you back for another season if you'd be so honored to return to the show.
You tell me when, and like I said, my invitation for you for this forum that I literally thought of when you said we should do a forum, is definitely still open, and we can work out the details later. But you know, what I want people to understand is why I do what I do. I do what I do because I love people. Sometimes I don't like people because people get on my last working nerves, but I don't want to see veterans on the street. People that served our country have given their mental state to fight for a country that doesn't care about them. I don't want to see women have their reproductive choices stripped away from them. I don't want to see discrimination in any form. And even though I'm not left, like I'm probably a little bit less left than you are, which you're left and that's great.
But I work with anybody, and
right.
we have enough in common to where we can.
Yeah, we have enough in common. I do it because I want to make a difference. And even though I'm not the best speaker, I'm not the smartest of people, I do it from a point of sincerity and obligation to do my part to make a difference. And you know, we don't have the audience, which I wish we did, but that's not going to stop me.
No, definitely.
So that's pretty much it. And of course, subscribe to my channel. I'd be an idiot if I didn't say subscribe to my channel. And you can visit me on my website, tracymediallc.com, because it doesn't get enough traffic. But
yeah, I was going to ask you your presence on social media, and if a viewer or a commentator want to reach out to you directly, how would they reach you? Would that be the easiest way? TracyMediaLLC.com?
TracyMediaLLC.com, or you can always drop me an email at TracyMediaLLC@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Those are 2 ways to reach me.
I'm going to tell you something. You gave me a thought. You said that I gave you a thought about this forum or something. I've never had, because the format of my podcast is individual, one-on-one, but I watched some of your YouTube videos, and I will make an exception for you because I just like the energy, like in your videos and stuff. Would it be possible to organize you and like 2 or 3 other your comrades to have like a, you know, kind of just like a discussion, intimate discussion, kind of get to know more?
I can't speak for them, but I can certainly make the outreach. Because all of our schedules, for some reason, you know, we kind of make room for what Marlon's doing because we're all on his platform, and then they return the favor when they come on my Friday game night.
I was thinking of it more so, I guess, kind of like it would be like a watch party kind of atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay.
Something like that. I'm trying to think of like an event that we could kind of center it around to kind of like we could have the television in the background and we could more or less like just talk shit or whatever while it's on and just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit.
You mean like we did Friday?
That was funny. Yeah. But centered around like because I know November the 8th is when a lot of these elections are.
Yes, and that's going to be a big night for the Tracy show because I'm actually I'm doing a show, but I'm not doing an interview. I'm just watching the elections to see how we get through because I know like my mind says we're gonna win, but I'm like, okay, they're gonna do something dirty and I'm gonna be watching.
I guess before we go, are there a couple of people that you like to throw out as far as people who do you support their platforms that you like to throw out to kind of give them some recognition?
In terms of financially right now, finances are real tight. So I make my support financially really strategically. I support Marlon Clyburn's platform. And I'm of course on his podcast. I support Theus Robinson. I'm on his podcast a lot. I support Tim Black. I don't know if you know who Tim Black is.
I used to watch Tim Black all the time. I used to mess with Tim Black hardcore. Yeah. I did. I still go in every once in a while, but the thing that bothers me about these YouTubers is just like the infighting. Is really I don't get it because the people that I follow, they fought with Tim Black and then they're fighting with Jimmy Dore, then Jimmy Dore's fighting with TYT.
Okay, I don't get it. I just listen to what he's saying, and I agree with him. Yeah, the infight, I'm like, y'all need to.
I like Tim Black, but then he says stuff that's just like, gosh, it's like, are you all the way out of the duopoly, or are you just like, what are you doing? I feel like he says things that are like anti-duopoly, but then he'll say some shit that's like, just straight up duopoly.
Yeah, but I love the content of this show. So
but no, I do too. I like his callers and stuff too.
But in terms of watching podcasts, I watch TYT, Ring of Fire. I've started watching Status Quo a whole lot.
Oh, Status Quo with Jordan? Yeah.
Yes, and I really am starting to like it a lot, which I didn't expect. Because he's not like the most saver, but what he's saying, I'm like, okay, listen to what he's talking about. And I like the fact that he goes to the streets and interviews people. I do
too.
Yeah, I think that's important. But as far as who I support, they have to line up with what I believe. And I support a lot of non-political stuff, like a whole bunch of non-political stuff.
But no, but I'm glad that you agreed to do this because, like you said, we have enough in common to where we can at least get these conversations going. Because a lot of the people that you're in contact with, I'm friends with a lot of those kinds of people, and I understand that y'all have genuine hearts. And I just think it's just a lot of it's communication, but some of it's ideological. But I think that there's ways around it. But we do agree that duopoly is not the way. And so if people can agree on that, then that's a great starting point.
Yeah, then we can move forward.
No doubt. But anyway, Tracy, I appreciate you. I would definitely invite you back at a later time. And we'll probably talk a little bit off camera after this interview. But thanks again for participating in Kiko's Freethinker Forum.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I'm not used to being interviewed, but this is more of a conversation to me. So
I love it.
I'm just grateful to you. And I did subscribe to Kiko's channel, please.
Oh, yes.
Please. Because I always like to promote whose platform I'm on. You can support me. Okay, I'll be fine. Because I'm going to find not a sugar daddy, but somebody take it. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. Kiko. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna get your name right.
You got it right now, Kiko.
He's gonna be okay, but he needs your support. I don't know
Yeah.
if he has a Patreon page, but if he does,
I'm bad about not asking for money. I got it on actually YouTube. I don't even mess with YouTube because of the censorship. The stuff that I do is very much they've already taken down a video of mine with Spike Cohen. And so I don't even YouTube is like a backup communication channel for me. I do strictly the podcasting platforms because they're way less censored. And
okay.
so
So whatever way he's on, you
any of the major podcasting platforms, any podcasting platform, Podvine, Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon, anything that's a podcast, I'm pretty much going to be on there. And I actually have quite a bit of traction on the podcasting platforms. But YouTube is good just to get the name out. I mean, because more eyes on something is better than nothing at all.
Yep. But whatever platforms he just named, you make sure you're there.
Okay. I appreciate that plug-in for me as well. And we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
No problem. We'll see you.